Today, I'm trying to solve the OCTAGON-1, taking it from this to this. It's an interesting new entry in the Square-1 series, which I don't expect to be incredibly difficult, but solving the Hexagon 1 was fairly tricky, so I'm not really sure where exactly the OCTAGON 1 will land. I released a video earlier showing the concepts behind the OCTAGON 1 and how I made the puzzle. Something I realized during the process was that the OCTAGON 1 actually has the exact same pieces as the Square-3. Each face has 8 15-degree edges and 8 30-degree corners. So does that mean the OCTAGON 1 and Square-3 solve the same? I don't actually think they will. While the Square-3 solved shape is pretty easy to get into after getting all the edges next to each other, since it's just the same procedure as on a Square-1, I'm not sure if there's a trivial way to solve the OCTAGON 1's shape. It's usually a new challenge with every Square-1 variant. For example, I let Lord of the Cubes borrow the Hexagon 1, and even he was having some trouble with that puzzle's shape. Once the shape is all solved, I think there's no way I can solve the OCTAGON 1 like the Square-3. On the Square-3, I mostly used the algorithm swapping 2 adjacent pieces on the top and bottom layers to pair all the edges and corners. And then I just solve it using the same algorithm like I would a cheese. The OCTAGON 1 has perfectly alternating edges and corners in its solved state, and that adjacent swap algorithm doesn't really let me solve the edges meaningfully in this state. So I think I'm going to need to treat it more like an actual Square-1 and try adapting Square-1 algorithms to solve the OCTAGON 1. Let's see. No matter what, I'm really excited to get into solving the OCTAGON 1. And if you want to see more unique puzzles like this, like and subscribe. Okay, let's get to scrambling the OCTAGON 1. I'm first going to scramble around the colors without messing with the shape, and then afterwards I'll start doing crazy shapeshifting. Okay, I think this is a pretty fair scramble. Now the first step is of course going to be trying to get all of these little edges next to each other. This is going to work exactly the same as it would on the Square-3. And something I noticed when I was solving the Square-3 is these edges can actually severely restrict the amount of slices. Basically, if you have a corner like this and a corner like this and just a single edge in between them, you're never going to be able to make any cuts that span from here to here. Let's see if I can get a slightly better example. Let's see. Okay, so you can see that in between this corner and this corner, there is one single edge, and nothing will line up from here to here. So you can see this doesn't line up with anything, this doesn't line up with anything, this doesn't line up with anything. It's only until we get a second edge that turns start to actually line up, like this one and this one. And that I found was probably the most severe restriction on the Square-3, but honestly, compared to puzzles I've solved afterwards like the Square-5, this no longer even seems like that big of a deal. So what I'm going to start with is building up this section more and seeing how easily I can get all of the edges next to each other. Okay, here we are. I'm going to be honest for a second there. I actually completely forgot whether or not this is one of the puzzles where you can't even get all of the edges next to each other and all corners on the other side, but yeah, of course it is. So here we are, and now we can pretty trivially break this up into the Square-3 solved state. And then we're going to have to see whether we can get to the OCTAGON 1 solved shape reasonably easily and repeatably from the square-3 shape. So let's first get it into the square-3 shape. The reason why it's so easy to get into the square-3 solved shape from that state is because the square-3 is actually a direct unbandaging of a square-1, and that's really a square-1 maneuver. But right now, I'm going to try and see if I can convert this to the state where everything's perfectly alternating between one corner and one edge, because that's the OCTAGON-1's true solved shape. Let's see, so I'm going to try splitting this apart like this. There we go. And then what does that give us? Does that give us something symmetrical? Yes, it does. So let's try breaking that up, maybe. Okay, so that looks better. We now have some alternating pieces. And then let's try and do this. Okay. Wow, was it really this easy? Was I really making this much of a fuss about nothing? Wow, that was genuinely trivial to get from the square-3 solved shape over to the OCTAGON-1 solved shape. That's crazy. I was not expecting it to be that easy. So now that the shape is done, I can get to solving all of the colors. Anyway, the next step that I would take on any weird square-1 like this is to get all of the whites on the white side and all of the yellows on the yellow side. I don't have any algorithms for that. I just do it kind of intuitively. Okay, this isn't exactly what I meant when I said get all of the yellow pieces onto the yellow side and all of the white pieces onto the white side. I am going to have to fix this. And here we are, all of the corners are on their respective sides, and now it's time to permute all of the pieces on both layers to get the puzzle fully solved. I don't know if I'm going to have to deal with parity, but I'll talk about parity towards the end, whether if I actually get it or if I don't get it, I'll still show you how I would solve it. Now that all of the white parts are on the white side and all of the yellow parts are on the yellow side, the next step is going to be to solve all of the corner permutations. Now I've tried a couple of the square-1 algorithms, and one that stood out to me was the normal adjacent swap algorithm that won 3 cycles this, this, and this. And then the other one that I always try is the headlights algorithm, which in this case actually does 2 swaps. It switches these two, and it'll switch these two as well, all on one face. And of course, because the octagon is an even-sided polygon, if we have only 2 corners messed up, we can keep switching them and bring one of them all the way around the puzzle, and that'll be an odd amount of swaps, thus resolving this in the process. So the corners are actually pretty straightforward. It's just that because this is an octagon, of course there's quite a lot of them. So let's take a look and see what's like the most complete area. So here we have these light blues next to each other. Is there anything else? Not really. The white side's pretty barren. Okay. What about the yellow side? Is there anything here? We have these reds that are good. And likewise, nothing else. Okay. So we're probably going to have to do some combination of 2 swaps, 3 swaps. Oh yeah, and of course, if I want to just swap 2 adjacent corners and 2 adjacent corners, I can do the normal algorithm for that. So right now, I'm thinking I can probably just build off of the pairs that I already have. So let's look for light blue. That would be all the way here. So it actually just needs to go all the way across. Do I have any other situations like that on the white side so that I can do it on both sides? Yeah, actually, okay, so I can switch this and I can switch this and this, so let's actually just do that. Okay, and I now have this light blue piece in place, and likewise here I also have 3 in a row. So let's keep going. That needs to come around here. What about purple? Purple needs to come around here. So thinking maybe now would be a good time to start using that 3 cycle. So the 3 cycle will bring this purple piece to here, which is correct. So let's do that right now. Alright, cool, we've made some more progress. We have this, and actually now this ready as well. Let's see what else we have left. So this green needs to go here, and actually, okay, so this is a 3 cycle, so, well, a 3 cycle into a 2 swap. You'll see what I mean, but for the time being, let's get at least one of these in the correct spot. So I guess let's go for this green one. Actually, that got this orange piece into the correct spot. So now, on the white side, all of the corners are good, except for these 2, which need to be swapped. So let's see if there's any more swaps that could be convenient on the yellow side, so that we can kind of pair a swap here with a swap here, and then just completely knock out the white side. Yeah, totally. So we could switch this purple one into here. So let's bring that over to the front and make sure we have these up front as well. And let's just take care of that real quick. Actually, yeah, I don't think it matters how I offset this. Okay, and that means that the white side corners are all good now. Excellent. And let's see where that leaves us with the yellow corners. So, of course, we just got this purple pair together. So what remains? What remains is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's too early to know if we're going to have to swap just 2 corners. For the time being, let's just keep swapping until something's more clear. Okay, so I believe this will go to here, right? So let's try and get this green corner in now. Okay, so the green corner is correct, so now we should be able to see whether we have a 3 cycle or a 2 cycle on the remaining yellow corners. And I can see right now that we're not going to have to do a swap of just 2 corners. That's because these are actually already paired together, they're just in the wrong place. So a 3 cycle will put this blue over here and just shift these 2 over here, meaning that I don't have to swap just 2 of them. But like I said, if I need to swap just 2 corners, I can swap them continuously on the bottom face while swapping a yellow one all the way around, and that'll get it done. It's really just like how you'd solve parity on a cheese puzzle where every slice is the same size. But anyway, let's do that 3 cycle and that'll completely knock out all of the corner permutations. Okay. All of the corners are good, and I'm actually going to take this opportunity to try and align the center layer correctly, just because I want to have a slightly better frame of reference for where all the edges are going to go. Okay, now the question is, are the white and yellow sides on their correct faces? No, they're not. So the middle layer needs to be flipped around, which of course is trivial. And here we are. We have all of the corners done as well as them paired to the central layer. Okay, now I have to start on the edges. For the edges, I have an algorithm that'll switch these two and these two, so that's if we need to do a swap on both sides. And then the normal 3 cycle will cycle these 3 back ones around. And I hope I don't get parity, but even if I don't, I'll still show you how I would solve it. So right now, honestly, much like the corners, I really want to figure out what's the most efficient way of getting all of the edges done. Just because this is an octagon and there's so many of them, so it can be a little tedious if I have to swap all of them around a million times. So let's see what we have. The first thing I like to do is see if I have any opposite swaps that would be convenient. So let's see. These could be swapped adjacently. That would be nice. And no opposite swaps on the white side. On yellow, the corners are actually screwed up. I don't know how that happened. I guess I must have done the last algorithm in the wrong place. Ugh, I'll quickly fix that. That's ridiculous. Okay. I don't know how I managed to screw that up that royally, but okay, now we have all of the corners done, and we can start looking at the edges. So I can see that right now, this and this could be swapped, and that would get this green one in, and that would actually help with the cyan too, because it would bring it a lot closer. So let's see if there's anything comparable on the yellow side. On the yellow side, I can see that I would solve cyan by bringing it from here down to here. So that's good enough for me. Let's try doing that. Let's see if there's any other examples of that while the central layer is still screwed up. The purple is not here. No, in fact, these need to swap eventually, which might be a problem. Yeah, nothing on the white side, and I mean, if there's nothing on the white side, actually, if there's something on the yellow side, it could make sense to maybe swap around something meaningless on the white side. Let's see. Purple, no. Yeah, we could do this one, actually. Sure. This should be okay. Okay, cool. So on the yellow side, we now have this dull green and this cyan edge done. And I guess also this red one, although that's not of much help if it's surrounded by other stuff. And then on the white side, we only have this blue one. So at this point, we can probably start doing 3 cycles, 2 cycles, whatever. I'm thinking to build up this block next to the blue, I should actually try and get this purple edge in. So I'm going to bring it to the back because the 3 cycle is going to cycle these 3 edges, and I'm going to get the purple one in. So that way I can start building out this area. Okay, you can see that worked. The purple is now in. This red is also in, but I think we're going to have to sacrifice that because we're going to need to bring this light blue in. And actually, that makes me think, would it not make sense to put the orange here and then swap out the orange and the light blue? And then I could put the light blue there. Why don't we try that? So let's do the 3 cycle on these to hopefully bring the orange to this middle section. Okay, so now we can swap these and that'll help our situation. Is there anything similar on the yellow side? Yeah, actually, if I can get the green one to over here, then I could swap the green one in and not have to worry about breaking up any of these other blocks. So let's put these in the back and try and get the green one towards the middle here. Okay, awesome. So I can switch this green into here, and I can switch this orange into here. And now that will screw up the central layer, but honestly, that's like a relatively minor concern at this stage anyway. Okay, so the goal has been achieved. We now have this yellow-green piece in, meaning that this entire block, all the way from red all the way through orange is actually all done now. And on the white side, the orange one's in, and this one is closer to being in. So I'm gonna fix the central layer because I actually don't think I'm going to need to mess it up anymore, so might as well just have the better visual reference available. Okay, and of course I also need to flip it. Okay, so now let's plan the next steps. I might want to do 2 swaps per layer or continue with 3 cycles. I see on this one, a 3 cycle would get the entire yellow done actually, and then on the white side I have more work to do. So why don't I just honestly knock out the yellow layer in that case, and then I can worry about the white layer. So I'm going to set up the 3 pieces that need to be cycled in the back right here and just get that done. I was honestly half expecting that I had misjudged these 3 pieces and that 2 of them were actually swapped, but no. We did 2 of the 3 cycle algorithm and the entire yellow side is now done. But we still won't know if we have to do a parity algorithm right up until we have like the last 2 or 3 edges remaining. So it's still kind of on the back of my mind. But let's see how we can most efficiently solve the white side now. I kind of want to start building out these edges more, so from the purple I'd want to go to this light blue, or from the orange I'd want to go to this dull green. I actually want to get the dull green, I think, because that's probably easier. So we'll just set these up for a 3 cycle and get that dull green in. Okay, mission accomplished, dull green is in, and unfortunately this light green is also solved, which means that we're going to have to screw around with it in order to get the other pieces in. So I guess let's just do 3 cycles for the time being to try and get this light blue one in, and that will screw up the green, but then ideally I'd be able to just do 3 cycles on these 3 and get those done. Maybe figuring out that I have to do parity, but I hope not. I really hope not. Okay, so you can see now we have just these 3 edges left. Let's figure out whether or not we're going to get parity. So if I do a 3 cycle, this is going to move around to here, this is going to move here, and this is going to move here. Okay, thank goodness, I don't have parity. So I'm going to quickly solve these edges, and then to finish off, I will show you how I actually would solve parity and why I really didn't want to get it this time. So let's quickly knock these out with a simple 3 cycle. Awesome. The OCTAGON-1 is fully solved. Honestly, this isn't a crazy difficult puzzle or anything. It mostly just feels like Square 1, but more of it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I had fun with this. But right now, let me show you my extremely primitive way of solving parity on something like this. This is also the way I used to solve parity on the Pentagon one, and I actually think it's pretty universal to most Square 1 puzzles. The problem is it will completely break up your solve and you'll have to redo your solve from the stage of it being in the right shape, just knowing that you're not going to get parity. So what I would do is try and get 4 edges next to each other. So bring them together like this, and then we could bring them together like this, I think. Yeah, okay. So then we want to shift the bottom layer 180 degrees so that we have 4 edges on top and 2 corners on the bottom. And then all you're gonna do is do the adjacent swap algorithm, swap this pair with this pair, and simultaneously this corner with this corner. That's an odd amount of swaps because that's 1, 2, and then 3. So that will solve the parity, but you have now screwed up like everything except the shape, so that's really annoying. In my original Square-3 video, I think I showed a version of this that was way more complicated than it needed to be, and honestly I don't remember exactly what it was, but this extremely rudimentary method that I just showed you should solve parity on
most, if not all, just weird square one variations. Like I said, I used it on the Pentagon one, and that's really funny because on the Pentagon one, a lot of algorithms didn't really work as they should. So it's really interesting to see which of these puzzles follow which rules and break other rules and all that good stuff.
So, that's how I solved the OCTAGON-1. I'm actually not 100% certain that this is the best method of solving it. Like I mentioned earlier, I let Lord of the Cubes borrow the Hexagon-1, and he actually solved it differently from the way I remember solving it. Instead of solving the corners and edges separately, he actually paired them together and reduced it to a Hexagon 0. So now I'm wondering, could I do that with the OCTAGON-1 and reduce it to an Octagon 0 and solve it that way? I wonder which of the two methods would be better for solving it. But for now, that's all. Thank you for watching. See you another time.